Starter jacket of my father, one of his most prized possessions. He loved this thing. He got it on Christmas morning, 1985. It was his pride and joy. He loved this jacket. I only wear it on special occasions, and I think tonight will qualify as a special occasion because joining us on the show tonight is the greatest quarterback in Chicago Bears history. So, Sammy, let's start the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Adam Ray.
Trying to cut it back. Justin Fields making magic happen. There goes Fields. Touchdown.
The sickest Chicago Bears and fantasy football podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
It's Tuesday night, and you know what that means. Tonight is a very special occasion because in 1982, the Chicago Bears used the 5th overall selection to draft this quarterback from BYU, and he would go on to be one of the faces of the greatest team in NFL history. The Sick Podcast is pleased to welcome Mr. Jim McMahon.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Oh my gosh, I am wonderful. I could not be more pleased to have you here. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Just trying to finish up a little dinner, but down in my buddy's basement, as you can see. But
you're looking good. Well, listen, that looks good. The burger looks good. You do what you got to do. I don't care what you do. You can sit there, have a meal. I'm happy to share this time with you. And I got to be honest. Obviously, you know, you mean a lot to a lot of people over the last couple of months, week, or for longer. You've really made an effort on Twitter to reach out to people. You're following a bunch of fans. You're interacting. You're posting photos. You're telling stories. What inspired you to get so involved with the fans? Because it's been awesome.
Well, thanks to my guys that actually do that for me. I guess it's going well because I myself do not do it.
Don't pull back the curtain too much. It's still interacting with you.
I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't see why people do this all day long, but yeah, I actually pay people to do this for me, so I'm glad that he's doing a good job. I hear some good things about it. I still have never seen the site or Facebook or whatever he called it, Instagram.
You gotta go.
I don't do any of it.
But you got to go check it out because it's cool for the fans to see you. They're dropping photos, they're dropping highlights. It's a wonderful time, and it's cool, you know, because still to this day, the 85 Bears still resonates with Chicago. Obviously it was the last team to win a Super Bowl. What makes that team so special?
Well, I think the amount of fun that we all had, you know, not only playing, but fun around the city. You know, all the guys had either a radio show or a TV show. So they were very, you know, much out in the public, and they saw us without our helmets on for maybe the first time in NFL history. So, they got to see us up close, and you know, and plus we were pretty damn good.
They're a pretty good team. Yeah, I would say the best of all time. I might be a little bit biased, but that's okay. I would also say too, you know, it feels like the NFL, you know, was kind of in a weird spot in the 80s. I don't think, you know, today when you hear about the NFL, it's obviously the most popular sport in the world. It didn't feel that way in the 80s. And I think in some respect, the 85 Bears kind of helped popularize the NFL, much in the same way that Jordan and Bird and Magic helped do it for the NBA, also during that same time period.
There's no doubt about it. You know, the NFL was struggling, like you say, in the early 80s, and people around the country started following the Bears because they said, look at all these crazy guys having a good time and winning ball games. And I actually think we helped save the league there for, you know, because we were good for, you know, from 84 to 88, we were pretty damn good.
No, absolutely. And it's still, and again, that's nobody talks about the 80s, you know, the 86 Giants or anything like that. It's always about the Bears, and it's always about, you know, they bring up the Super Bowl shuffle. Now, what happened? How did the Super Bowl shuffle come about? Because it seems, you know, you guys filmed that during the season. There was a lot of confidence that went into making this video. What inspired you to go out and do this?
Well, I wasn't inspired at all to do it, but Willie Galt was he had a friend in the music business, and he had this idea that we'll do this video, or it was actually supposed to be a record. That's how the deal came to us. He said, "Hey guys, we're going to make a record. The proceeds are going to feed the homeless on Thanksgiving and Christmas." And we thought, okay, that's good for Chicago.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing we thought about. And then they ended up taping that video the day after we lost to Miami on Monday night down in Miami. So, we got home probably 3 or 4 in the morning. Guys had to be at the studio at 8 or 9 in the morning. Walter Payton and I both told him we weren't going to show up because that wasn't part of the deal. The deal was we're going to make a record. So anyway, they filmed that the day after we lose to Miami. We still had 3 or 4 games left to go in the season. Yeah, and we're singing about the Super Bowl shuffle. So it was kind of funny. Walter and I ended up having to do our parts a week or 2 after that in the racquetball court at Hallis Hall. That's where we taped our little spiel there. So it was it wasn't a fun experience, and but it doesn't go away. People still talk about it everywhere I go. They bring it up, and I guess it was kind of fun at the time.
I mean, it looked like it was fun. I mean, looked like being the quarterback of the Chicago Bears was a fun time. I mean, what was that like? I mean, were you able to? I always see photos of you from the 80s. You're on the Letterman show, you're on Carson, hanging out with celebrities. What was that like?
1 second.
No problem.
Still into this burger.
No, listen, it was
a lot of fun. Some of it was a lot of fun. I mean, Johnny Carson was a blast. Leno, Letterman, meeting some of the celebrities I got to meet and hang out with, being at the Playboy Mansion with Hugh Hefner and Bruce Willis, Sean Connery. I mean, the who's who.
Oh, wow.
I was up there watching a fight one night. I can't remember who was fighting. I think it was Sugar Ray or Tommy Hearns and Hagler or something like that. It was a big fight. And it was. I got to do a lot of cool stuff because of football. So yeah, it's been a good ride.
What was it like hanging out with Bruce Willis? I mean, that might have been the biggest box office star of the 80s. He was doing Die Hard and stuff like that. How did you two come together?
Well, I actually met Bruce when he was doing Moonlighting. He was filming Moonlighting to film something, and it might have been Carson or Leno, one of those two. And he had heard I was in town, and he got a hold of my agent and said, "Hey, would you like to when are you guys leaving?" And we happened to be leaving right after the shoot, or we had a couple hours before we were going to leave. So he suggested a restaurant, and he said he probably couldn't make it because they were shooting that night. And so we ended up at the restaurant, and then Bruce showed up about 45 minutes later. He goes, "Yeah, the hell with it, I couldn't shoot anymore. I just wanted to come bullshit." So we just sat and had a great time. And then from then on, when I would go to LA, I'd call him up and end up doing something. So it was a lot of fun back in the day.
No, it sounds like it. You did a lot of commercials. You did a lot of those posters. I think there was the Chicago Vice poster that you did with Walter Payton, and we have a photo of you and Walter Payton from back in the day as well. What was your relationship like with him? Because as somebody, who grew up in a family that loved the Chicago Bears, my father, you were his 2 favorite players. And I remember this photo distinctly. We had it displayed in the house. What was your relationship like with Walter?
I think it was a pretty good one. I think he understood that I was trying to help him out as much as possible. He had I don't know how he survived the 5 or 6 years before I got here because the offensive line wasn't really that good, and he would just amaze me. He'd make a 30-yard run that only gained 1 or 2 yards. I mean, he bounced off the left sideline back to the right, and I was trying to throw a block and get out of the way at the same time. I never knew where it was. He just did not want to be tackled. But I used to tell Coach Ditka, "Hey, let's throw him the ball more. Why do we have to run it all the time?
Yeah,
get him away from all the mess." But we were just hard nosed. We're going to run the football down your throat kind of team, and it was actually boring as hell for me. But to be able to sit and watch him do his thing, it was kind of special.
Yeah, you know what? It feels like you're ahead of your time because Walter was actually, as you said, a great receiver out of the backfield as well. I know you don't follow the game, now too closely. But I mean, are you a little remiss that you're not playing now? I feel like, because I feel like people overlook how good you were offensively, because the defense gets a lot of the credit as well.
Oh yeah, that's what they're known for, their defense and who their running back is. But yeah, we had a pretty damn good offense as well. Our offensive line was solid, really good. I think Jimbo Covert finally got in the Hall of Fame this past year. I believe Keith Van Horn and Jay Hilgenberg deserve to be in there as well. And maybe even Mark Bortz, our left guard. I mean, those guys did something that's never been done in the NFL, which is lead the league in rushing 4 straight years. And that's a credit to them, because everybody knew we were going to run the football. And to be able to do that, that says something about those guys up front. So, but yeah, in '85, I think we scored the second most points in the NFL that year. We held the ball for almost 40 minutes a game. So, yeah, we did our parts as well. Defensively we were strong. There's no doubt about that. But they only had to play 22 minutes.
Yeah, you were able to keep them off the field as you were grinding down the clock and everything like that. And that's true, because you were the number one offense in 1985. It did something that doesn't get looked at. I mean, you don't score 46 points in a Super Bowl without, being a little proficient offensively.
Well, the defense scored 9 of them, so
that's still.
But yeah, we did. We had a lot of good talent on the offense. I think that's why the New England didn't fare as well as they thought, because their whole focus was, we stop Walter Payton, we win. And they did a good job of that. I mean, they did. Walter carried it, I think, up 27, 25, something like that, times that game. But their whole focus was, we stop Walter, we're going to win the game. And that's why everybody else had big days, because the focus on him was just unbelievable. I tell people all the time, look at that. I think it was the first play of the second half. We're backed up on our 4-yard line. We run a play action pass, and it wasn't even a good fake to Walter. And there's 6 guys chasing him, and I left Willie one-on-one down the middle. And had I thrown it another yard, we could have scored there too. But yeah, we had our moments on offense.
Yeah, it was just an amazing collection of talent, the likes that you just don't see anymore. But again, like, do you feel like, or do you ever wish that you could have played in a pass happy version that we see in the NFL right now, especially one where you're not allowed to touch the quarterback much? It feels like you could have been out there setting some records yourself.
I would have loved to play in today's game as far as throwing the ball. That's what we did in college. That's what I got to do in college. And I was much more comfortable doing that than handing it off all the time. That sucked. But yeah, it's today's game. You got to be able to throw the football and understand defense and how to get the ball out of your hands to the person as quick as you can, the right person. So, and that was always my strong suit. I understood defenses and would just love to sit back there in the shotgun and just pick people apart. That'd be a lot of fun.
No, I remember it. I remember a game that you played at Anaheim Stadium against Long Beach State. I think George Allen was the coach of Long Beach State, and you did pretty well that day. But I'm remiss right there. I heard also that there was an event recently with Coach Mike Ditka. Were you able to get together with him and see him and see how he was doing?
We had the Gridiron Greats Gala last Friday night. Coach Dick was there, him and Diana. Excuse me. It was a great night. Good to see some old friends of mine. Ron Rivera got an award. Good to see Ronnie. John Riggins and his wife were there, Marv Levy. So those guys I haven't seen in quite a while. So it was a lot of fun. Coach Dick, pretty much the same old Coach Dick. He got on the mic for a few minutes, pretty funny. And ornery as hell as ever, but that's Mike.
Yeah, and there was obviously, back in the day, there were some, well-known or well-publicized, dust-ups on the sideline, some clashes between you and the coach. How's the relationship now? Have you guys, you're good now? There's no problems? No, are you still getting under his skin?
Well, no, I don't. He lives in Florida and Chicago, and I live in Arizona, so I don't get to see him a hell of a lot. Before the other night, it was probably a year ago. I saw him at a function for Steve McMichael, who's not doing well at all with ALS.
Yeah.
It's tough to see Steve struggling like that, but yeah, coach is. I tried to get under his skin, but since he's not my boss anymore, we get along pretty well. I would have loved to play with him. He was a great player, and I think he would have understood me a hell of a lot more had he been in my huddle.
Yeah, that's the one thing. What was that like? Because I know the first time you show up at Hallis Hall, you leave BYU, you show up at Hallis Hall with a beer. Didn't quite go as well as you thought, or what was that like?
Well, people try to make a big stink about that, but I was a fifth-year senior. It wasn't like I was 17, 18 years old.
Right.
For one. I'd just taken a 3-hour flight. I took an hour limo ride, and there was beer in the limo, so there wasn't much else to drink. Might have been a water, but you got a beer there. I'll take a beer any day over the water.
Yeah.
So I finished off a couple, and then as I was getting out of it, I was not thinking about press at all. And I got out of the limo, and there was a couple left on the string, so I took those with me. And then all of a sudden, the press was right there, and I'm like, "Oh, this is what I'm gonna have to deal with." But Coach Ditka happened to be walking in the building at that same moment, and looked at me and said, "So you're my first round pick, huh?" I said, "Yeah, I guess so." And that was my first meeting with him. So I guess he understood that I like my beer too.
Well, listen, you don't want to be wasteful. It would have been rude to leave it in there. You don't want that thrown away. That makes a lot of sense. It's the polite thing to do. Otherwise, who knows what would have happened. So I would have done the same thing. I mean, it would have been rude not to have taken it. One of the things that was really fascinating about your career too is that you played after Chicago. Like you were the greatest quarterback in Bears history. People still talk about it. People, my age talk about it. My dad talks about it, like all that kind of stuff. My dad talked about it, all that kind of stuff. But you played for a number of teams, including the Green Bay Packers. You won a Super Bowl with them. But when you were invited to the White House, you wore a Bears jersey, which I remember this to this day. I remember the look on my dad's face. He could not have been more proud that you were wearing that Bears jersey with all those Packers. How were you able to pull that off?
Well, I had explained to my teammates there in Green Bay what had happened to us in Chicago, that we didn't get to go to the White House because of the space shuttle had blown up 2 days after we won, and all the focus was there, which is rightfully so.
Of course.
No problem with that. But I think they could have snuck us in somewhere between then and the time we actually did go.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so I explained to my teammates, I said, look, we didn't get to go. I'm going to wear my jersey to represent my teammates, myself and my team. And I actually called a couple of my old linemen and said, hey, you send me your jersey. I'll hold that up during the team picture,
Oh my gosh.
Rose Garden or wherever the hell we're going to be at. They never did, but I ended up wearing mine. And they really didn't have any big problem with it. Coach Holmgren, I explained to him the same thing. And the only coach that really got a little upset was Fritz Shermer. He was our defensive coordinator. And the reason I think he was pissed is because it brought back some bad memories, because he was a defensive coordinator with the Rams when we beat the Rams to go to the Super Bowl with Chicago. I think that's the only reason he was upset. But yeah, nobody else, maybe some of the fans were upset, but they probably didn't realize what I was doing. And I didn't bother to explain myself to all them.
Yeah, we don't need to explain anything to Packer fans. They've had a nice run over the last couple of years against us, and that's fine. Hopefully, it'll be changing here in the near future. What do you think about this season? I don't know if you caught this, but Aaron Rodgers scored a touchdown, had some words for the fans. Do you obviously were a competitor. You weren't afraid to share your feelings. Do you respect that, or do you see a Packer doing that in Chicago, and does that make you a little upset?
Well, he's got a point. He has owned the Bears, hasn't he? I don't know if he's lost.
Yeah, I got it.
When I was here, I think I only lost once to the Packers. So I own the Packers. And then I beat them when I was in Philly. I beat them I think somewhere else when I was. So, that's just guys. That's what happens when on the field of battle. Somebody probably said something to him and pissed him off, and he responded. It doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
The way you take those words out of his mouth is you beat him next time. And when's the last time they beat him?
No, it's been a long time. I mean, you got to go back to 2018, the last time the Bears won the division, did beat the Packers in Soldier Field to solidify the championship. But outside of that, it has not been great for the Bears. So you're absolutely
you
right.
got to be able, if you're going to play in Chicago, whatever advice I can give this young kid, you got to be able to beat the Packers.
That's true. And I think the fans want that too. I think we're fed up. We want to go back to that time. I mean, it's such a laugher. Like, I remember my dad would always talk about the fact that he never mentioned the Packers. Like, the Packers were not, like you said, like, you own the Packers. They were nothing to them. It was Washington and San Francisco were the teams that he did not like. Who were some of your biggest rivals? What teams did you like playing in the 80s?
Well, I like playing Tampa, especially in Tampa, because it was always a hot day and they were always pretty bad. So it was usually a pretty easy afternoon. But San Francisco, they were always tough with us. They went to 2 of the Super Bowls we should have gone to in 84 and 88.
Mm-hmm.
Washington was another team that beat us twice in a row in the playoffs here at home, or in Chicago at home. We could always seem to beat the Giants for some reason, but they could always beat the Redskins, but we couldn't beat the Redskins for some reason.
That's right.
It was those 4 teams. It seemed like in the 80s there that one of those 4 were going to win or at least go to the Super Bowl.
No, it always seemed that way. I know the 86 Giants did not beat the Bears. I was explaining that to one of the co-hosts on Good Morning Football today. Like, no, the Giants. No, Peter. The Giants did not beat the Bears to go to the Super Bowl that season. That is a hollow victory as far as I'm concerned. But again, it was Washington that happened. If you don't mind, we got a couple of fans here who are joining in. We're going to read some of their questions. If you want to bring up the first one as Jim is finishing his burger. If Jim was playing today, what would you write on your headband?
I don't know if you can write anything on it anymore. I think those rules change. Those rules change after I gave Pete Rozelle.
You did.
I did. Whatever would be on there would probably I'd be getting paid for it. So
it would be your Twitter handle, all that kind of stuff. What was that relationship like with Pete Rozelle? Did you eventually, be good? Were you guys good after a while? Was it still adversarial? How was that?
No, it was fine. In fact, the week after I wore his name, they fined me the first week, and they had no business finding me.
Yeah,
I found that out later. And so he actually called me that next week and thanked me for the free advertising he said I gave him, and told me I still couldn't wear it in the Super Bowl. My Adidas headband, which I'd been wearing for a couple of years.
Yeah. And
so I got a hold of the rule book between the championship game and the Super Bowl, and I'm going through it, and I've realized, that they shouldn't have been able to find me the first time. So now I'm going to mess with them a little bit in the Super Bowl. And so Adidas offered me a good chunk of change to wear it.
Yeah. And
I said, look, I'll wear it, but I can't wear it on my head, but you're gonna see it. And so that's what I did. I decided I was going to wear all charities. That way, if they find me, they're going to look like idiots.
Yeah.
And so I would switch to a different charity every series. And then, but prior to the game, I had the Adidas headband on, and all during the warm-ups, and the head referee kept chasing me around saying, "Hey, I can't let you on the field with that." I said, "Yeah, I know." And then at the national anthem, I'm standing there with Walter, myself, the head ref, and when the anthem's over, I went to put my helmet on, and the ref says, "I can't let you on the field." And I said, "I know." But he said, "I know, but you can't do a damn thing about this." And I pulled my headband down around my neck. And if you look at any picture you see of me in the Super Bowl, you can see Adidas proudly displayed. And the ref just looked at me and started laughing. He goes, "Yeah, you're right." And so I grabbed the first charity, which I believe was something for diabetes,
Mhm.
JDF, I believe it was, and then from then on, just changed every series. But ended up, I didn't get fined. I got
Yeah.
paid by Adidas, but the very next year there was so many more new rules that I had to figure out how to get around.
Oh yeah. I mean that just shows your dedication and how prepared you were. You knew the NFL rule book, you found your workaround, you painted them into a corner, and we love that. And speaking of the Super Bowl though, I got to ask, like what was that week like? Because the Bears are making the Super Bowl. The game is in New Orleans, which is a city that is known for its nightlife. The 85 Bears were known to enjoy a time or two, a beverage or two. What was that whole Super Bowl week like?
We had more than a few. Yeah, we didn't have curfew that week. You know, Ditka said, "Hey, you guys are on your own until Saturday night."
Oh
And
wow.
so, and we got there on a Monday, so we saw the sun come up probably Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And no, we were having a great time. And then all of a sudden, a sportscaster decided to say that on air that I had called all the women of New Orleans sluts, and that the men were stupid, and some other dumbass comments this guy made.
Mhm.
Which where he got those, I don't know. Wasn't from me. And so I don't know anything about this. The next morning, I get woken up real early in the morning. It's some irate fan screaming and yelling they're going to kill me for calling his wife a slut, and I had no idea what was going
Oh
on.
wow.
So I hang up the phone, and 2 seconds later it rings again. Another fan, same thing. My roommate Kurt Becker says, "Hey, what's going on?" I said, "I don't know. Somebody's pissed." And so I went to breakfast. Excuse me, down at the team breakfast, and I'm standing in the breakfast line, and the general manager walked up and said, "You really did it this time."
Oh no.
And he walked away. That's all he said to me. I have no idea what the hell's going on.
Okay, so you have no idea what's happening.
I'm still waiting my turn in line for breakfast. And then Ditka walked up and said, "Hey, did you really say that?" And I said, "Mike," I said, "Say what?" I said, "I got woken up this morning." I said, "Jerry's pissed." I go, "What did I do?" And he said, "Did you do a radio show and call all the women of New Orleans sluts?" I said, "Are you out of your mind?" I said, "When did I do this show?" He said, "This morning." I said, "What time?" He said, 6. I said, "Dude, I didn't get back here till 5:30. There's no way I did a radio show at 6." And so I don't know where the guy heard that from, or he just decided he'd make it up and think that would help me choke or whatever. But yeah, so that was Thursday morning. And so Thursday, Friday, Saturday was brutal, just trying to, get to and from practice without getting shot.
Oh man.
Our our practice, we practiced at the old Saints facility, which was right next to them was a huge apartment complex that overlooked our field.
Mhm.
And all the guys didn't want to stand by me. They thought I was going to get shot. I was wearing a different jersey number. Yeah, it was no fun after Thursday, and I was just kind of glad. I don't really remember playing in the game. I've seen some of those crazy movies, like Black Sunday and stuff like that. So
Oh
if they want
no.
to take you out bad enough, they'll get you. And so as soon as that gun went off at the end of the fourth quarter, I ran through the tunnel, got dressed, and got out of there. So that was the last I'd seen in New Orleans for a long time, other than when I went back to playing with the Packers.
Right, yeah, the Packers won their Super Bowl. Was there did anybody bring that up again when you went back down there to play with the Packers?
Luckily, I didn't have to do a hell of a lot of interviews.
Yeah,
They were too busy
true.
bothering Favre. But yeah, somebody did bring it up, and I just said, "Dude, there's no reason to even go there. It wasn't a story. Because you guys made it up, just like most of you guys do." So yeah, I didn't have the problem I had the first time.
Yeah, so they never nobody ever tracked down this person who did this or anything like that?
He was a TV personality.
Oh,
I think they ended up firing him for the time that we were there, and then they brought him back after I left town. But yeah, there was no no repercussions for it.
That's unbelievable. I don't know. That's crazy. I had no idea. The different jersey number, there's too much going on. Super Bowl week. Must have been a Boston guy. Who knows? But let's take another question from the crowd. Sammy, do you have a question? Describe the practical joke or the best practical joke you ever played on a teammate or one that played on you.
Oh, well, it's probably a family podcast. So I probably could.
I mean, we got Sammy's a young man, but it's okay. Listen, listen. You can say whatever you want.
My old linemen were upset at me one day for something, and so they cornered me in the equipment room. No way out of that equipment room. And these are some big boys now, and I fought like hell. I had to give up at some point, and then I believe it was my center. he had a glove on his rubber glove on his hand with all that heat.
Oh no,
liniment stuff, and that ended up in a place it should never go.
Oh no!
And so, yeah, that burnt for a couple of days.
Oh,
but anyway, a couple of days later, we used to have our lunches, brought in. You can order from wherever, and they bring it in. Mm-hmm. And so all the guys usually got milk. All the old linemen usually got milkshakes with their lunch. And so I got 2 of those milkshakes first and put the little X-Lax and whatever else I could. And so out practice that afternoon, we're all in the huddle, and you could just hear these guys' stomachs gurgling, and they're all bent over. They're all looking at each other like, "You feel good?" And they're like, "No, I feel like crap." And then they all started looking at me because I'm laughing my ass off. No, it's coming. And sure enough, it was actually, I think, during one of our offensive periods. I just had to run out of the huddle because they figured it out. They're going to kill me in the huddle. So I just took off running. Dick is like, "What the hell are you doing?" I said, "I don't know. They're after me for something." They all had to go to the bathroom real quick, one right after the other. Oh, I think he figured out what I did after that. But yeah, that was just, good, clean fun.
Yeah. You didn't do it to the center though, did you? Cause I mean, that's, you got to put your hands there.
Yeah. That's a story for another day, but.
Sammy, what about another question? What is your favorite play from your career? Is there something that stands out to you?
Oh boy, favorite play. Well, I don't even remember a lot of the plays, so I couldn't even tell you a favorite one. Anyone where we scored, that's always a favorite. Like if I threw a touchdown pass, I like throwing touchdown passes. I used to do that a lot in college, but not so much in the pros with our offense. But yeah, I don't really remember or have a favorite play that I have in mind.
I mean, college, obviously at BYU with Lavelle Edwards was your coach at BYU. Is that correct?
Yeah, he was our head coach.
I remember that correctly. There's a highlight reel. I would invite anybody to do a deep dive into the YouTube to go find some of the offensive plays and the offensive fireworks that BYU was putting up in the 80s and check that out. Wasn't there a play though? You did catch a touchdown pass though, if I'm not mistaken. Didn't Walter Payton at one point throw you a touchdown pass?
Yeah, he actually threw me 3 or 4 of them actually. Basically the same play that we ran. We only ran it once every couple of years, but when we ran it, it worked. Yeah, that's always fun. Walter could do it all. He could, throw it. He could kick it. He could sure as hell run with it, and he can block your ass off too. I mean, he was just a great football player, great teammate, and I was happy I was able to play with him.
Well, now, when you talk about the practical jokes, now obviously you and the offensive lineman had a great relationship, the headbutts and everything. Was Walter Payton off limits? Like I understand, like a lot of people consider him. I consider him the greatest running back of all time. Was he off limits? Could you mess with him?
Oh yeah. I mean, Walter was one of our biggest pranksters on the team. So yeah, you could mess with Walter. He didn't have thick or thin skin. Yeah, he used to love to put his M80s and leave them on a really long fuse, and then walk out to practice and hang them over the side of our racquetball court, which you had to walk by to get to the practice field. and
Oh, no.
he'd be out there for 10 minutes when these things went off, and it was like being in Iraq when I was there a few years back. But yeah, he loved his weapons, and he liked things that exploded, and never knew. But he was not off limits. No, there's no doubt. Other than during practice, Buddy Ryan used to tell his defense, "Don't hit number 34."
Oh, wow.
And he'd tell them, "Don't hit 9 either." But they'd whack me a few times anyway.
Why
But
would they hit you?
they just, welcome to the league, even though it was my 4th year.
Right. That doesn't seem fair. Sammy, do we have another one from the crowd too? If how do you feel? Yeah. Now you talked about, now obviously you don't watch again, you're a little, you're not super close with the Bears right now. What are you, have you watched Justin Fields at all? The new kid? Have you seen any of his plays? Cause he's been a pretty dynamic force. He's had some highlight plays. Have you been able to catch a little bit of him?
I've seen him play maybe about a series.
Mhm.
I don't watch a hell of a lot, but I know he was a big time player at Ohio State. He's got talent, and anytime you can succeed in the college level, you're usually be able to translate that into the pros. So I'm sure he'll be fine as long as he's got people up front. Those 5 guys they will make and break any quarterback. So I don't even know who their linemen are or how good are they or what, but unless he's got 5 of those guys. I wish him luck.
No, yeah, they've been rebuilding the offensive line. It's been one of the storylines, but he's got the dynamic playmaking ability, which does make him something special. But I do want to go back. I do want to say too, like we talked about the time at Green Bay. So I wanted to circle back to that. Can we say though that do you hate Green Bay now? Because I just need to know. I want to hate that team so much. I want to know that you do too.
I hated them for a long, long time when I was playing against them. I'll tell you that, especially when Forrest Gregg was their coach. There was a lot of bad blood between him and Ditka, and that kind of trickled down to the players, and it got ugly there for 3 or 4 years, and so I had a chance to go up to the Packers probably 3 years prior to when I did,
Mhm.
and I couldn't bring myself to do it because of the bad taste I had in my mouth with the Charles Martin event, and then just the way things unfolded with Green Bay and Chicago every year. So
Yeah.
when I finally did get up there, the last part of '95, and then in '96, I thought Mike Holmgren was a hell of a coach. Thought he did, he worked us when it was time to work, but he also gave us our time off. And just the atmosphere there. I mean, it's totally different from any other sports franchise. I mean, there's nothing else there in Green Bay, unless you
Yeah.
ice fish. Good luck. And the town pretty much I think the town does own the team. So
Yeah.
you're not dealing with one owner. You're dealing with the whole town of Green Bay. It's just a whole different atmosphere, and everybody gets treated the same, whether you're the equipment guy or you're the president of the Packers. So. Yeah, I thought it was a hell of an organization, and all my 2 oldest were only 1.5 or 2 and 1 when we won with the Bears. So really, they only remember winning the
Oh
Super
no.
Bowl with the Packers. So my kids kind of tend towards the Packers when they root.
Oh no, we've got to change that. That cannot be allowed.
They,
Although I
they
do.
love Favre, they love Aaron Rodgers. So
Oh no, this is breaking my heart. I need to get them on this show, and I need to have a little bit of an intervention to let them know we cannot allow this to go forward. Although I will tell them, I will let them know that like Favre, the only time Favre won a Super Bowl was when you were his teammate. So by association, the Bears have to take a lot of credit for that Super Bowl win. I'll take that small victory.
I agree with you there too.
It was your guiding hand. I mean, but honestly, like Brett Favre, obviously had some trouble getting over the hump with the Cowboys and with the 49ers of that era as well. Like, how was it? I mean, I got to feel like, and I said that flippantly, but I really have to believe that you did have a lot of influence. I mean, did you have to work to help him and to mentor him and everything when you were his backup?
No, I mean he had been there for a couple of years already. He knew the offense. I mean, it was just there really is nothing. I just told him don't screw it up. When I got there in '95, it was I think there was 5 games left in the season. We ended up going to the NFC Championship game that year, losing.
Mm-hmm.
So the following year, we get back to training camp, and I'm looking at the schedule, and I notice the Super Bowl is back in New Orleans, and it's on the same day that we played. And I said, this is going to be weird. And I said, we that's what happened to us in Chicago. We lost in '84, come back, and then win it. And I said, it's on the same day. And I said, it's in the same city. I said, just don't screw this up. I said, this is karma. And then it ended up we're playing the same.
Yeah, you're playing
against the New England Patriots. 11 years apart on the same day in the same city. That was I don't know who wrote that script.
It was destined.
Yeah, he was a great player, great competitor. He'd do some crazy things every once in a while, but who doesn't?
Yeah, it's true. And
look at me and go, why did he do that? I say, hell, I don't know. I've been here a year. You've been here for 3 or 4 with him. You tell me why he did that. But I think that's why he played so well that year, because he knew if he screwed up, I was going to play, and he wasn't getting back in. So because I finally going to get to play in an offense which was halfway decent.
Yeah, that would have been. You know what? And that's the thing. If you would have gotten an opportunity, it would have been a chance to go out there and show everybody what you can do offensively. I'm obviously very biased about this because I do. I studied what you did at BYU and what you're able to do. I mean, I saw something that like Steve Young was crediting you for teaching him how to throw a football. Like he didn't know how to do the corkscrew thing until you taught him. So again, I will take credit for you guiding the Packers to their Super Bowl win. I'm going to give you Steve Young's Super Bowl win as well.
I think he earned that. He came along. He came a long way from a freshman at BYU, because they tried to make him a defensive back originally, I think.
Oh no.
And he said, no, I want to be a quarterback, but he was having trouble throwing, and he was throwing more of a curveball. When you spin, if your wrist goes like that, throwing the ball is not going to be good. And then he told me this later on. He used to watch me throw, and he always noticed that my hand went the other way. And I said, well, that's how I've always thrown the ball. Whether it be a baseball or a football, or that's just the way it feels more natural. The ball comes out better. It spirals more. So, but I'll take a little credit for helping Steve get in the Hall too.
No, I'm giving it to you. You don't have to take it. I'm giving it to you. And it's because I'm a lefty as well. There is a natural inclination to throw that curve, as you're talking about. You do have to learn how to throw it this way. They never let me play quarterback in high school because I didn't master that, but that doesn't matter. Nobody cares about that. But I do. One last thing though. What, you talked briefly about Justin, but what is it about being a quarterback in Chicago? Because it feels like when this team gets back, and I truly believe that they will, what is it like being the quarterback in Chicago when the Bears are winning? I know that they had great success. The Blackhawks won a couple of Stanley Cups, obviously Jordan and the Bulls. But I think if you're the quarterback of the Bears when that team is winning, I don't think that anything could top that.
Chicago's always been a great town. They always treated me well. I think the thing about the fans in Chicago, they just want you to play hard. And if you play hard, they love you. And if you play hard and you win, they love you forever. I mean, that's, what was it, 36 years ago it's been for us. And, when I'm in town, it's still, I still get a lot of people coming up and said, hey, thanks for everything. And it's always great to come back to the city. And, nowadays, who knows? I try to stay out of the city right now, the way things are going with this mayor. But it was a great town, and like I said, all my kids were raised here. They all love this. They all love the Chicago area. So I just couldn't deal with the cold anymore.
Yeah, of course not.
In California, and 80, 50 degrees used to be cold to me. And then I lived here for 28 years, and 50 below was pretty common in the early 80s. So yeah, that's not for me. I like flip flops and shorts and t-shirts, and this ain't the place to be for that.
Not at all. You know what? My parents were the same way, both Illinois natives. I was raised out in California, so I agree with everything you said about not wanting to be in the cold. But you know what? You personified what it takes to win in Chicago. The way you played, and that's why people appreciate you. That's why people love you. That's why people gravitated towards you. That's why they will still stop you on the streets and want to tell you great stories about when you played, whether you remember it or not. You meant a lot to a lot of people. And I can't tell you how much it meant for me to have you on the show today. This was, I never thought it would happen. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for everything that you've done. You have an open invitation anytime you want to come back. If you need me to talk to your kids and tell them to start rooting for the Bears, I'm happy to do that.
They've been catching grief for years. They don't care. They're their own people as well. I'm glad they learned. I think they learned that from me anyway. But
that's true. Yeah,
appreciate you having me on and letting me finish my dinner. Sorry about chewing during the interview, but
you could do whatever you want. I felt like
rehabbing this foot of mine, and I didn't have time to get the dinner in. So I appreciate it. I'll talk to you again sometime.
That would be great. Thank you so much, Jim. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Right. And there he goes, the greatest quarterback in Bears history. It was fun. I appreciate his candor. By the way, if you enjoyed that interview, if you can just type in the word sick, just to let us know that you enjoyed it, you had a good time. I lost my train of thought a couple of times. It's very emotional. If you guys don't know, if you've watched this, I think most people understand. You might or might not know. My parents are no longer here. This Bears team was very special to my family. So, why do I have to always do this? I got to compose myself one more time, but it's important. And so for Jim to be so gracious with our time, we didn't even ask him like how much time he had. I didn't want to keep him forever. But also at the same time, I'm like, I kind of don't want to let you go because I'm like having a good time talking about this. You're eating, which was perfect because that's exactly what I would expect. Like, listen, dude, you do you. You've always been your own person. And so that was cool. I think I'm gonna end it there. Thanks, everybody. Sammy, no, wait, hold on. Don't play the animation yet. Don't play the animation. I want to thank everybody. Thanks to Anello and Sammy for putting that together. Means a lot. Play us out. I gotta go.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.